Hey everyone, I just wanted to share with you guys today a little bit about cooking. Because, I've got a lot of friends who say that cooking nice food and eating nice food is hard. But then when they come over to my house, they're always like, come on, you don't eat like this every day when I feed them dinner. And I'm like, oh yeah, we do. Except for the few days that we have leftovers. We'll have something like a salmon, we'll have something like a nice cooked pork or a nice cooked chicken, or usually it does involve meat. I'm sorry guys if you guys are not a fan of that. I am a huge meat lover myself, and it's always just this nicely cooked dinner. Or even if it's spaghetti, it's not just like normal spaghetti. It's a fancy spaghetti. Haven't made mac and cheese from a box and who knows how long, and that's actually considered a sin in this house. So I just want to share with you guys the quick tips that I do, because I'm not a professional cook. I'm not too terribly great, but I do know a few things, and I do know how to make things taste good. And the one big thing I want to share is that cooking is more of not necessarily a science, but an art. Now, baking is definitely what I would say 100% a science, where cooking is more of an art. And what I mean by that is you do need to get things right. You need to get the right amounts of things, but there's this feel that you can give into it. You can give and you can take and you can add and you can provide to something, whereas with cooking or baking, you can't really do that. You have to follow the recipe, otherwise your cake's going to turn out terrible. I'm actually a terrible baker. But as far as cooking goes, it's one of my favorite things to do, and it's not that hard. Also, the other thing is, all these things that I get are completely from my local grocery store. I just stop on the way home. We save money actually that way. This meal is one of the more expensive meals. It's one of my favorites. But you actually do save money that way. I mean, for example, this meal right here is less than $10. And as you can see, I'm having a London broil. I'm having some nice purple potatoes, an onion to go in the mix, and I'm going to do some candied carrots. Now, granted, I do have some things already, such as seasonings and spices and whatnot, but those actually last quite some time, and you don't need to buy them every single week. That's the point. And so these items I can just pick up at home. I save money. I get them fresh every day, and it does give me some more exercise. I monitor everything here on my watch, and I do get quite a bit more exercise from that. Plus, I get to talk to people, which is always good. Socializing is good. You can get, actually, just to show you guys a story, the job I'm currently in, so I was a manager at the grocery store that I bought all this from. And it was going to the grocery store after my work hours. It could have happened during, but it was after my work hours in this particular case, that someone that I knew came up to me and he let me know that there was a job opportunity. And in fact, I applied, I got the job, and now a year later, I've received 2 promotions, and I'm doing very well for myself. And so, well, kind of one promotion with another one being a title advancement, but that's a different sort of dealio. So socialization is a good thing. You get that from going out, and you also get to eat better food, I think. So in particular, to show you guys what I'm doing here is I'm going to have a London broil, and I'm actually going to put this in the oven. It's one of my favorite methods. So I've got this nice little Japanese green oven-safe bowl here. Pot, whatever you like to call it. And I'm going to put my London broil in there with my potatoes, the purple variety, and my onion. Now, you could put the carrots in there. Personally, I'm not going to do a candy glaze on these instead. And so, just a few tricks to the matter is, as I was saying, this is more of an art. The biggest thing is, how do you like your food? So whenever my friends come over, one of the big things I ask them, like, I don't just cook them a steak. What I'll do in particular is I'll ask them, how do you want your steak? What do you like in your steak? Now, if they say something that's really wussy, I'll actually make no, I'm just kidding. I'll make them the steak that they want. But I really want to make sure that they're not being wusses and that they're trying new things. And for me, that the meat tastes the way that I want. And if you try new things with this, if you really experiment with food, you actually find out a lot of times that it doesn't turn out that terrible. Now, you could have a terrible situation where oh no, I put way too much pepper in there, or oh no, I put way too much salt, or something along those lines. That could happen. But if you just start slow, probably the first time for most of you, I'm going to bet you're going to underseason it. And then you just work your way up from there. You say, hey, last time I did this, how about we try this? And then I use smell a lot. Actually, I can't smell too terribly great. So when I can start smelling the seasoning, that's when I know, okay, we're good. So to show you guys what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually use Worcestershire sauce. I love this stuff. I'm going to put this on later, though. And I'm going to get some salt. This is black pepper on here, but it's actually a white pepper that I put in there. I just needed the grinder. I prefer white pepper with my meats, such as pork and with beef. Chicken, I'd go with more of a black pepper. The reason is because white pepper has got a little bit more of a kick to it, and I appreciate that in my beef and my pork, and my wife does too, and so, whatever she likes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and throw those on there. Some other basic seasonings. I'm actually just going to take these, and I'm going to take a few over and smell them, just to show you guys. So there's a few of these that obviously are not going to work, but just for the kick and, kicks and giggles, I'm going to show you what I do. So grabbing a few of my seasonings from my seasoning rack. I've got basil, I've got thyme, marjoram, rosemary, and herbs de Provence. So what I do is I'm like, okay, I know what this is. It's going to be this Worcestershire sauce, kind of a little bit kicky with my white pepper, and got some salt in there, which goes with everything. So now that I know these smells, now I know what that smells like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to smell these and see what's going to go along with it. What complements it? Herbs de Provence. Let me shake that up a little bit. You know what? I'm going to use this. It's got a few herbs in here, actually, by the way. Thyme. Now, I think there's some thyme, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there is thyme in herbs de Provence. So I'll put this aside. This is great. I'm just going to put that aside. It smells wonderful. Basil. Use this more usually in my spaghetti dishes. Or Italian. Yeah, so this is a little bit sweeter than what I want. So I'm going to put this aside. I'm not going to do that. Marjoram. Oh, I haven't actually opened this one up. That's a shocker. This is a new kit for me, so I haven't opened them all up yet. I've still been using my old stuff. Now, this does smell great, but a little towards the sweet side is what I would say. And rosemary. And this one's not open up either. I know how this smells, but just for kicks and giggles, I like to do it every time, because sometimes I change my mind and I add something in, and even though it sounds a little funky, it actually works really well. Plus, they smell so great when they're freshly opened. It's just a little bit more tart than I want in that. So I'm actually going to go really simple here. I'm just going to go stick with some Worcestershire sauce, some black pepper, some Himalayan, and then I usually add some spice. That's my personal. I like spicy food, so let me show you. I have some chili powder. Actually, I'm going to go with red pepper, ground red pepper. Completely optional. I put this on a lot of my friends' food, sometimes without them knowing. And actually, they have reported that they really like it. Everyone who's tried it loves it. Now, the quantity, that depends. Again, completely up to your personal opinion. This stuff is potent, so be careful when you put it on your meat. So the big thing here is when I'm going to mix the potatoes with an onion with my meat, there's two ways you can do this. You can either just put it in the oven. There's a lot of recipes, so look these up online. And you don't have to follow the recipe of what seasonings you put on or gravies or whatnot. You kind of get an idea if it's a wet or a dry mixture, just to kind of understand it a little bit more. You don't have to follow those perfectly. What you want to do, though, is you want to just kind of associate it with whatever is best for your situation. And so in this case, I'm going to actually start my oven at 400 degrees because I found a recipe. Actually, I'm going to do it a little bit slower. I'm going to do it about 365 instead because I want to make this a little bit slower. It tastes a little bit better to me when I do that. And you can make decisions like that in cooking. I'll show you how you're able to do that. The other thing is, I don't want to just put this in here like a lot of recipes call for. There's a neat little thing that I found where you season the meat, and then what you do is you actually go ahead, start cooking on a pan, high sear, with a little bit of oil or butter. Get a nice brown and crisp on the outside edge. Then you let it sit. You mix everything in, and that's when you add the Worcestershire sauce. And you want to do so carefully so you don't like get rid of the flavors on there. But it really makes it a little bit better of a texture. Now, you can achieve that same texture with a Dutch oven. Fortunately, I don't have any at the current moment. I'm still working on obtaining everything that I want in life. But, you know, that's a different discussion for a different day. So let's go ahead and start here by seasoning this meat and then getting it on my stove. So I'm going to make my stove a little warm. And when you have a pan on the stove, make sure you have some oil in it or something. You don't want to just put it in there by itself. And another important thing is, before you start, you always want to make sure that your counter's clean. I was swiping earlier just to make sure I can't really see this counter too well. Sometimes these little speckles look like stuff. Make sure it's clean. Make sure you use a Clorox napkin. If you're really paranoid like me, double check because, you know, you want to be safe. This is not hard to cook with and poison yourself, beef, but chicken is really easy to poison yourself and a few other things, so please just be careful when you're cooking. So let's go ahead and open up this meat here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take it out. I should have put the knife away first. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and throw this away. Because I'm paranoid, I wash my hands quite frequently, so you'll probably see that. You know, you just kind of got to feel out, ask what people like, make sure you get the right size. You can adjust it. There's this little spinny knob on most of them. Just kind of pound it down in there and then get those seasonings nice and try it on there. You want to rub it, unless you get too much on there, and then I kind of hold off on the rubbing until I make sure I get the right amount. So look, so there's a proper season. I can actually see the season. It looks good. Here's my little paranoid part. I'm going to go wash my hands, then put it on the stove and whatnot, but 1 second. So just to let you guys know, I'm not going to cook this very long. I'll actually show you. I'll move everything over here real quick. And let me turn the oven on a little bit higher. All right. I keep saying oven, and it actually means stove. I'm sorry, guys. So let's turn this up on a high sear. I've got some oil in here because I don't want my little baby to burn. And then for this in particular, I'm going to use some tongs to turn it. You don't want to touch the pan, of course, it's hot. And then I'm going to make sure that my pan is going to be over here, ready for me to access to put the meat in. So be careful when you do this at home. I'm a little bit like my dad. Live life on the edge, you know? So this is on high as you can go. This isn't a gas stove. If you have a gas stove, please use it. It's amazing. Let me go ahead and wash everything off. Pro tip, if you're worried about dishes when you're doing everything, just kind of wash everything off. Remove your pans from the heat. Clean everything as you go, and everything goes a lot faster, easier. So I'm just going to keep this here. Let me move you guys back over and kind of just show you. There's the meat. All right. So here we go. Keep in mind, I'm explaining things as I go, and that's why I'm taking a little bit longer. Let me go ahead and clean off my area a little bit. So I'm going to take my handy dandy cloth, and I'm just going to wipe it off. And this is just beef. I'm really not too concerned about things, so I'm not going to go any more in depth right now with anything about cleaning wise. I'm not concerned about it. I'm going to get another cutting board. You don't have to do this again with beef. You can always clean it off, but it's recommended, preferred. It's a good strategy. Another thing with these wood cutting boards, you can cut meat on them and whatnot. They're really easy and nice on your knives. The one thing is you can see this one bent. So people say, don't put them in a washing machine. You're going to, or a dishwasher, sorry. You're going to break them. And don't use it too much. Don't use knives on all these things. People don't like wood boards. They're perfectly fine. The one thing that you have to keep in mind is they will warp. So when you go ahead and use it next time, make sure you're on the side that wobbles like this. Because what happens is it's soaking in that water. And because of the way that wood soaks and absorbs water and reacts to water, it will warp in the direction that you cut it last. So this is the direction I cut it last. Now, when I go ahead and wash it off, because I'm going to primarily wash this side, I'm not going to really wash the other side. What's going to happen is all that water's going to soak in and it's going to warp back into place. That's how I've been able to keep all of my wooden boards without a single hitch. So just be careful about that. Make sure that you are rotating your board and you are washing them properly because we don't want to get sick here. This is my favorite knife. This is a chef's knife. I keep it nice and sharp. I'm going to start here with the potatoes. And I'm going to go ahead and wash them off. Just to be nice and clean, what like. Would not bring honor upon us all. All right. let's go ahead and get these in there as well. And then for this, I'm actually going to go with more of a black pepper. Still going to do salt. Might not actually use my salt grinder though. Get that cleaned off with some soap. But this is going to get away. Now I just have this. I'm going to actually put the Worcestershire sauce in. A nice, healthy amount. I want it kind of drenched more in here, because this is what you want the liquids on anyways. And then I'm going to just kind of spritz on my meat later on. So, I've got 2 cute little salt and pepper shakers that my wife absolutely adores. And I'm just going to put some salt in here, put some pepper in here. I'm going to go ahead and get my hands dirty and start mixing it up. After I've mixed it up a little bit, and scoop down to the bottom, make sure you get everything. I'm going to put some more salt in here because of flavor. And when you mix it around, it really gets around, so don't worry about it like sticking in one place. That was one of my fears, actually, when I first started doing this. Is like, oh, no, it's just going to stick in one place. I got to move it around, goes. Now you can put it on top and mix it around, and it actually does get everywhere if you mix it appropriately. You know, give it a good enough mixing on there. You got to kind of feel it with your hands and sift through it. Make sure that you're getting everywhere. Okay, great. So, smell everything afterwards. That smells great. It smells wonderful. Let's bring my meat back over here now. And so what I'll do is I'll reposition my meat in here. My hands will wash. Take my Worcestershire sauce, lay along the top of my meat. I'm just gonna kind of just soak in here. It's a good taste that I like. I'm gonna take my potatoes and my onions, and I'm gonna kind of stuff it here on the sides. Now I always do this every time. I always get too much. Way too many potatoes, way too many onions. It's because I love potatoes. The Irish potato famine would have been one of the worst things in my history had that happen to me. Oh, I dropped a potato. So sad. So I'm actually gonna cover it up. I know a lot of people don't cover it up. That's fine. You can do what you want. This is what I've been saying quite a bit. But I am going to cover it up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drizzle this nice sauce here on the top and get the rest of my onions down on there. Every time I do this, I think I shouldn't use as many potatoes. Like, don't use as many potatoes, Austin. You know, you're using too many. And you know what I do? I get too many potatoes. That's the fun part about life, though, is you get to have extra potatoes. Let me put this in my throwaway bag. So there you are. Now, I totally just had this craving when I was on my way home, and I decided to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. I'm going to start my timer. Say, hey, Alexa, start a timer for about 35 minutes.
35 minutes, starting now.
Fantastic. I'll go ahead and put this in the oven, and then I will take it out and check on it, make sure it's doing well. And I actually might turn the temperature down a little bit more so I get more of a slow cook on here. And when I take it out, I just put my little thermometer into the meat. I check to make sure it's the temperature I like. You can check online. I do prefer medium rare to medium well is where I prefer in the range. whatever you want, whatever you like. If you like something different, then do something different. But experiment, try different things. That's how I found out what my favorite was, is I tried a bunch of different ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in, and we'll go from there. I'm gonna move this around right here. It's a really simple recipe. Now the recipe actually called originally for ginger ale, but instead I have some Sprite that I'm going to be using here instead. And this is just kind of the liquid that we are going to candy it in. It's got sugar, it's got a few other things that we have key ingredients in here. Chili powder and parsley, just kind of a personal taste sort of deal that I would like to do. And then you can go ahead and throw some pepper and some salt on afterwards if that's what you desire. Now they've got actually good flavor to them, so you might not need it. I mean, of course, do whatever you want. And then I've got my bag here of carrots. Now you can use any type of carrots that you want. I just prefer these ones. This is what I grew up with, and it's a personal preference of mine. So you'll just want to heat up here. I've got it on about 6, so 5's my medium, and I've got one up higher than that. Right now, just cooking this up. Getting this butter hot, melting it, make sure we're all good to go there. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add the Sprite, and then I'll add the carrots. I'll go ahead and season it. And voila. Actually, no, I'm going to show the salt on beforehand, because salt's such a good thing. So here's my little kitty salt. Right here. And the butter is almost melted. I work with butter and fats too frequently. Most of the time, though, I use nice olive oil. I like olive oil, but I do use them quite a bit. So the point of this is just to get some flavor in here. We want to kind of get some sugary goodness, so I'm going to add the Sprite in. And now, technically, it's 1 cup. I'm just going to do it enough so that it's enough to coat the bottom of my pan, so that I can go ahead and cook my carrots and everything in here. I'm just going to let this heat up. I'm not in a hurry. Might just need to get a knife for this to make that a little easier. Not going crazy and breaking anything. Let's go ahead and throw my carrots down in here. And get them all separated out on my liquid. Fantastic.